I've had some hot takes in my comments, and I wanted the chance to go through a few and give my thoughts on it. First up from Eli, he says that Flitter is the worst starter on Shanghai, and I think that is underselling Flitter by a large amount. I think he is still one of, if not the best DPS in the world. He has deadlifted Shanghai so many times and is a hard carry. I don't think any other player can live up to his peak. I don't think he is the worst on Shanghai by a long shot, despite Shanghai's insanely stacked roster. If I had to pick, I'd say Fate is a bit worse. My hot take is that Flitter was better than Sparkle, Pelican and Givster last year, just Lip got more attention. Our next hot take is also from Eli, that Kai is generally the carry when Pelican is on Tracer. Again, I really disagree with this. Pelican pounded on Tracer even against legends like Givster and Yaki. While his Echo and Pharah are probably his best heroes, he is still one of the best Tracers in the world. Also, I have to say I think people are overrating Kai. Don't get me wrong, Kai is great, but he is definitely not the best hit scan in the world. He really started heating up only in the post-season. Most would agree that Pelican was the carry between the two early on in the year. The next hot take is that Atlanta had the best support line in the West and the second best in the world. First off, I'll discount the second best support line in the world now. Both the Dragons and Fusion had better support lines. But who had the best support line in the West is an interesting question. I would say the Fuel and arguably the Gladiators had better ones, but I could definitely see an argument for Atlanta. The only issue with Atlanta's support line is that Iris can only really play the Baptist to a super top tier level. My hot take is that Lastro will be the primary starter for the Outlaws unless Baptist stays really strong. Luckily Baptist was one of the most popular supports last year, but it held Atlanta back on a few other comps. Mesa is nutty though, top 3 Lucio for sure. Next, we have a take here saying that God is the third best main support in North America last year, behind Jex and Mesa. This is a pretty tough one. I might agree with this. I would argue Moth is better, but I need to see him play first. But when we saw him he didn't have much change in performance. He is pretty clearly above most of the others though, even Drydro in my opinion. Our next take states that Twilight was better than Violet at every flex support aside from Moira. I think this is a mixed bag. I would say Twilight is the better Anne, while Violet had the better Moira and Zen, and that they are around equal on the Baptist. Also worth noting is that Violet had a weird year, with him hopefully going back to the flex support next season. Hopefully he can go back to his peak. Next take is that Amon is a better ball than Gaga. This is a tough one. Gaga is overall a much better player, but Amon has been sitting in a cave, perfecting his ball play for years. Honestly, looking at the stats, Amon is slightly better individually, though the team has been much more coherent and organized with Gaga in. I'd say I might agree with this, but it is close. Miller was a better Echo than Givster at points. Not sure which points you are talking about, but yeah, no shot. Givster was one of the best Echoes in the league, and statistically they are not even close. Mirror was just mediocre in comparison to Givster for the year. Next, Skewed was a better Zen than Fielder and Violet. I am unsure why people hate Violet so much now. The guy is still cracked. Just because he had a weird season doesn't take away from the fact that he played flex still to a pretty high level and that he is likely the best flex in the league's history still. Fielder is also consistently cracked, winning a role star for his role. I won't stand for this slander. Skewed wasn't top tier at anything other than Brig, and looking at stats he gets less final blows, outputs less damage and heals less than both Filler and Violet. Skewed is a cracked Brig, but not as good in his other heroes. Next take is that the Glads were the only good ball team in the If you are talking about in comparison to a pack, then kind of. Dallas had a really good ball comp in playoffs, and even Atlanta looked quite good on it. Not even including Paris and Florida. Next is that OGE had a slightly worse Orisa than Checkmate. I feel bad for OGE if this is unironic. Checkmate was absolutely abysmal and OGE was never that bad. Checkmate was caught out of position and died way too many times, whereas OGE played her much smarter and defensively. Highly disagree. Next take is that Gator and Hawk won't look as good as usual due to they playing separately. While I generally agree with this, I think that's just how most tanks will be. A lot of tank play is the off-tank peeling for the main tank, and the main tank making space for off-tank plays. I think tanks will just look weaker as a role in general. Next take is that the Justice had better supports than the Mayhem. I agree with this one. I would put Closer and Slime equal to each other, while Gangnam Jin was viewed as one of the better players on Florida. Whereas Beb had his moments, but was very subpar compared to the rest of the roster. Next, Shock played better overall than Glads in their Countdown Cup match, but Glads only won due to Shu's play. I've been thinking about this as well, however I have to disagree. While Shock would have won if not for that play, it's still undeniable that they looked sloppy on Map 1, gave up first point on Rulto to the Glads, and choked on Map 5 Round 3. It's a poor excuse to blame their loss on one play, even if it was an absurdly good, game-winning play. Next, Xiaomisu had a better echo than Architect. Xiaomisu barely played anything this season, so I'm not sure where you are getting this idea. I would say that we haven't had enough data to get the full idea of who is better, but I would tend to disagree. Next is that Crimzo had a higher chance of getting player of the match over Fury and Decay in their match versus Justice. This one kind of confuses me. I think it's saying that Crimzo had more impact in the game for Houston than Fury or Decay did for the Justice. If so, I would tend to disagree. I think Decay had an absurd performance that game. The man had 141 limbs and 70k damage compared to Happy's 116 and 62k. I think he was the main difference maker. Next is that Kai had better aim than Lip. Again, I would tend to disagree, though Kai has better accuracy on Ash statistically. Lip showed he was significantly better in their grand finals match. I think this take heavily overrates Kai and underrates Lip. Next, Assassin had a better echo than Nero. I think they are about equal. I would go with Nero though due to his consistency and that he played better with his team. Assassin is Jurat, but he was held back massively by his inconsistency even off the Sombra. Next take is that Gesture fell off after Season 1. Unfortunately, this is true. Gesture was still good in Season 2 in my opinion, but his play had a massively downturn after Season 2 for whatever reason, though his hog did carry them to grand finals. He was seen as a factor holding the team back in Season 4 especially, and he never reached the dominance he did in Season 1. Next is a Nero hot take. The commenter says that Nero is washed yet still has potential. Not sure how you can say Nero is washed after the season he had. He was one of the best pieces in a still highly competitive San Francisco Shock, and he always stepped up when the team needed him. I would say he is a top 6-7 flex DPS in the league, and will be a key factor in Atlanta's success next year. Next, I'll combine two different takes. Hyan believes that the San Francisco Shock will be a top-tier team next year once they pick up a good off-tank, while Noodle believes they will struggle going into next year due to the amount of rookies and COVID struggle. Firstly, I wouldn't be too concerned about getting the O2 Blast guys into America. There are still 5 months in the off-season, which should be more than enough time considering the new program John Spector set up. Now, tend to agree more with Ilhyan here. The Shock haven't completed their roster yet, but if they keep up the pickups, they could very well be a championship-level team. I do believe they will be top tier, yet not yet hanging with the Glads and Dallas, but Krusty and Ninek are legendary for developing players, and what a group of players to develop. Proper is likely to be the next Flitter or Profit or Leave. Kilo is phenomenal at every hitscan. Finn is a monster at flex support and will go nicely with Violet, and Sam is the second best flex DPS out of Na. While these guys are rookies, they are the best possible rookie squad you could assemble. I genuinely think these guys will be champion material again, at least at the end of the year, if not throughout the year. Next, London will be bad again, likely causing Poco to retire. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. Poco has had it rough lately, being benched for 2 seasons on the Fusion and then going to a subpar London squad. I feel like he could retire if the season doesn't go his way. Also, yeah, London are the worst team in the for sure right now. Next is that Vancouver will be mid. I agree, they need more players. A stack and 2 hitscans on the starting squad isn't inspiring. Next, take is that Shax and Dalton are as good as Sparkle on Tracer, just held back by their teammates. This is an interesting one. These guys were amazing last year and stood out despite their team's awfulness. While I think this could hold true for Shax, Dalton I feel needs a bit more work before he can stand up to the top. His Tracer is only above average, I feel. Next take is that Fate will underperform due to a lack of Hammond in the meta. I disagree. I think Fate will be better this year than last. He has an incredible amount of flexibility and can play pretty much all main tanks at a high level. Maybe I am a Fate stan, but the man is a god. You'll see it for yourself next year. Finally, Soul will underperform at the start due to only having Smurf, but will reach top 2 in a pack and top 6 overall after picking up an off-tank due to their insane DPS. Yeah, no arguments here, these are my thoughts exactly. Thanks for watching and remember to like and subscribe for more. I upload daily Overwatch League content and am trying to hit 100 subs by Season 5, so any subscription helps greatly. Thanks.